everybody. I'm Stephanie Morris, CEO of Shape America, and thank you so much for joining us today on today's episode of Shape Unplugged. I am very excited to have two amazing guests with me today to talk a little bit about a special initiative that they have funded at Shape America through an endowment. Chuck Corbin, who is Professor Emeritus at Arizona State University, and his wife, Cathie Corbin. So hello to both of you, and thank you both so much for being on the show today.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit, just to get started, how are you? How has your summer been? What have you been up to?
Well, we were hot. we live in Phoenix, and we've had a record number of days above 110, and it's supposed to be 117 today. So it's hot. Looking forward to, just got to see our granddaughter in a play over at the high school, and our other granddaughter getting ready for her soccer games and finishing up a house remodel. I don't know whether Cathie wants to say anything about that.
So thankful it's over. That's all I can say. I don't recommend it to anyone.
I can imagine, but that all sounds really nice, and that's wonderful. So Chuck, as everyone listening very well knows, you've had a long and storied career in the health and physical education field. When you reflect upon your experiences, what stands out to you as something or someone that really influenced how you thought and how you approached your professional practice?
First let me say, and I'll put my face up close to the camera there, cover up if you're a PE teacher like me that started out on the playgrounds of Albuquerque, because I just got back from the dermatologist where they burn off all of these skin things that are pre-cancer. So all those PE teachers, cover up, slop that sunscreen on. Well, I grew up playing sports and went to a small high school, played 4 sports, football, basketball, baseball, and track. They had no sports for women, girls. That was sad, but I was a PE major from the beginning in 1957 when I went to the University of New Mexico. And I always looked up to my high school basketball coach, Carol Charles, who went on to become a professor and wrote books on classroom discipline. My mom and dad were teachers in a 2-room school in the mountains of New Mexico, and then went on. My mom was an art educator later on, and my dad a principal. Dr. Seidler, who was my academic advisor at New Mexico, got me interested in physical education as opposed to just coaching, which is what I wanted to be when I started. And then my brother David followed and became a PE teacher and then a health educator at University of Nebraska, Omaha. And his wife Josie is a dance educator there. And Cathie worked at Social Security to put me through graduate school so that I could do some of the kinds of things that I was able to do in my career. So I guess that's how it starts.
I think that's a really inspiring story, and especially neat and meaningful that you had support from your wife to launch your career and to advance it and continue on this path that you are clearly so passionate about. So that is wonderful, and thank you for sharing. As you reflect upon where we are today and the future of health education and physical education, what are you most hopeful about?
Well, I've just been writing another article for a talk that I'm going to give, and I cite at the beginning of the article my friend and colleague Roberta Park, now deceased, who wrote an article back a while back and said that physical education had the chance to be the Renaissance field or the Renaissance profession of the 21st century. And she couched that in terms of medicine in the 20th century, starting out as a non-profession, barbers and blacksmiths and people who treated disease and so forth, gradually starting medical schools and developing a science, and it became a well-respected profession. And she said that during this century, physical education has a chance to be that. And I have agreement with that. And look at the evidence that we have about the health benefits of physical activity, about how participation in PE and physical education and physical activity increases academic achievement. We did our own study here using our Fitness for Life curriculum at a local high school, and we showed if you take this high school curriculum, the people who go through it are more likely to be active later in life. So PE works. We've got the support of parents. We've got the support of medical computing. Ask my granddaughter, what's your favorite subject in elementary school? PE. The studies show that. So that's what kids love. And so I think we can be that Renaissance field, but if we're going to, we've got to advocate and let people know what we do and what we can do.
So well said, so well spoken. I could not agree with you more, of course, and I really appreciate all of your heartfelt thoughts along those lines. And yes, absolutely all of that. So let's talk for a minute about the Chuck and Cathie Corbin Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Keynote Address that was recently established, and which we are very, very proud to host each year at the Shape America National Convention. Cathie, can you share a little bit with our listeners about what motivated you to endow this important address?
Sure. Well, I think I started out as a feminist probably right after birth. I've always been that. And I've always had causes that I cared about and that I advocated for. But when our two older sons came out as gay, a year apart in the late 80s, I became immersed in learning and just dealing with the situation. Then I started from scratch. I did not know anything about gay people. I'd never heard anything good about gay people. I'd only ever heard snide remarks and little slurs and things like that. So I took it personally because being a mom is my career. That's what I'm passionate about. And I felt like a failure. I felt like I'd done something wrong. But we had heard for years that gayness is caused by overbearing mothers. That's what the literature said. The stuff that I read when I first found out was not helpful. That's the kind of stuff that I read, and it was really not helpful. I didn't think it was true, but you start to doubt yourself. You think, well, maybe I was that. I don't know. I mean, I did used to tease the kids and say, you're never going to find a woman as fabulous as your mother. But I didn't think they'd take it that seriously. Anyway, I just, I have to go back and think about how I felt back then, because I don't feel any of that anymore at all. I'm very proud of all of our kids. And what I am passionate about is I want for our gay kids to have the same rights as our straight son has. I see no reason why their life should be more challenging, more difficult than his. And so that's part of what I brought to this project. It's not the only group that I care about by any means, but it's the one that's dearest to my heart.
I have so much appreciation as a mom of 3 kids myself for everything you just said. And I have so much admiration for you as well in as you talk about the path that you went on to learn and grow and think about the best way in which you could support your kids. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. Chuck, would you like to share any thoughts along these lines?
Well, when I did my first student teaching assignment at Texas A&M University, I went to the high school, and it was a segregated high school. This was after Brown versus Board of Education. This is after the Civil Rights Act, and I didn't know. And so we got active in the community in terms of trying to get the school board elected, which had been appointed, so that we could build the next new school between neighborhoods so we wouldn't have busing and that kind of thing. We had a few signs put in our lawn and a few phone calls that we didn't feel so good about. Then when I was at Kansas State University, I became department head, and I became de facto athletic director for women, because all the women's sports were club sports and all the coaches were faculty members in our department. And so they were very successful and went to some AAAW championships. And I was put in the position of having to go to the president of the university and get funding so they could travel instead of doing car washes and bake sales and so forth, in order to just have funds to travel. And from the perspective of our kids, I've seen gay kids bullied, and I've seen gay kids bullied in PE. And that lends itself, all of these things lend to the idea behind why we funded what we did, because we want girls to have sports. We want gay people to be able to participate without being bullied. And we want people of all ethnic groups and races to have equal opportunity. So that's where we came from.
And could I add one thing to that? Also, for people who are not athletically gifted to be able to enjoy and get full participation, which didn't happen back in my day. I was in the outfield every time, and I hardly ever came up to bat. So, I'm not gifted like that. But it should be just as much fun. I've learned to have a lot of fun in sports and enjoyed a lot just through Chuck, learning to play tennis and volleyball and biking and other things. So that's a group that sometimes also gets short shrift.
100%. And I have so much appreciation for the authenticity that you both have in making this decision to endow this keynote address. It's makes it even more meaningful. And I have so much appreciation for everything that you shared. Cathie, can you say a little bit more about your work with PFLAG in particular?
Sure. PFLAG is an organization, well, it stands for Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. That's the name that it started with, and has maintained, even though we've expanded the group names, but that's the name of the organization. And its mission is to support first and most important, I think, educate and advocate for gay people and their families. I got steered to that group through a friend of our son's. She was a gay woman, and she could see I was struggling. And she said, "Have you read any books?" And I said, "Well, I've tried, but I said, the ones that I've read have really not been helpful." And she said, "Well," she said, there's a bookstore that I can send you to, and tell them what you're looking for, and they can help you out." And she said, "Have you ever heard of an organization called PFLAG?" And I said, "No, I've never heard of it." She said, "It's a wonderful organization. You will find the kind of support that you need, and you will learn what you need to know. And she said, you will be welcomed and you will feel at home." And so I went to my first meeting, and I was terrified. But it turns out they were just the loveliest people. There was an older couple who were the first co-presidents of PFLAG Phoenix back when I went in the late 80s and 90s. And they were just amazing. She had a gay son. He was a stepfather. I met many people who had more than one gay child, found out that that's not really that unusual. And they're just good old regular people, just lovely, lovely people. And also, gay people would come and tell their stories. I remember one guy that came and spoke to us particularly, and he said, "Does anybody have any questions?" And I said, "Why are parents the last to know? Why are we the last ones to hear about our gay kids?" I said, it's really upsetting to think that this is been the truth for some time, and we're the last people to find out. And he said, well, I can answer that for you. He said, because it matters the most. He said, we have so much at stake, and that's why. So, I learned so much and just expanded my world tremendously. I know so many gay people, and trans people, and it's made our world a lot richer, I think, for it.
And she served as an officer for a number of years.
Yeah,
too.
I was a treasurer for a few years, so.
That's wonderful. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing that with everybody listening. I think back to when Chuck and I first started having conversations about what your endowment could support at Shape America and what would make the most sense, and landing on this keynote to advance equity, diversity, and inclusion in health and physical education felt so right from the get-go. And it was because of him sharing some of these things that you both have offered up today through this podcast. And it hit me so hard then, just how meaningful it was, what you've been through, your experiences, and how you've used that to build a foundation for work you want to continue doing, to advance good. And I just want to say thank you right now for everything you just shared, because it's hitting me all over again. And I know that everybody listening right now, it's probably really having an impact on them too. So let's switch gears for a minute. And Chuck, would love to hear any words of wisdom you might have for emerging professionals out there, in particular, those who are just starting out on their career. What words of wisdom do you have for them as they are listening?
You got a couple of hours. Well, so I guess to try to synthesize it in just a short statement is, it has always bothered me how physical educators and coaches are portrayed in the movies and on TV. Mr. Woodcock, the movie, is a good example of that. We're the overbearing, authoritarian person who tells kids what to do and don't listen to kids and so forth. And I never found that to be true. I could have been elected president when I was an elementary PE teacher. Kids love PE. So during the course of my work, I developed the HELP philosophy, H-E-L-P, and that's the basis for my Fitness for Life program. I shared that with Physical Best, which is a program of Shape America. I shared it with FitnessGram, which I worked on the science board for years. And it basically says health, including fitness and wellness, for everyone, for a lifetime, in a very personal way, H-E-L-P. And that personal means that Cathie didn't excel in sports like I did, but she became a great tennis player and enjoyed it. Not everybody has skills, and what we do should be for everyone. So that's essential if we're going to keep all kids interested, not just in elementary school, but all the way through school and into life. And I guess I'll use a little of your association title. Shaped my career. I started going in 1964, and I never missed a convention until the Boston blackout. And then I don't fly now, so I haven't been lately, but I stay in tune. And it's given me the opportunity to be successful. And so my advice would be, join a professional association, join SHAPE, read the journals, go to conventions, meet other people, interact, find out new ideas, read, get involved. And that's what it's going to take if Robbie Park is right, that we're going to be the Renaissance profession of the 21st century.
Well spoken, and I'm sure every emerging professional is listening intently, and I hope they take it to heart. Great advice. Thank you, Chuck. And thank you both again so much for joining us today, for your time as guests in Shape Unplugged. Any last words that either of you might want to offer?
don't think I have anything else.
No, I'll just get involved.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you both again. And to everyone listening today, thank you so much for your time and joining us on today's episode of Shape Unplugged.